Atlanta, a winter afternoon in December. Peachtree Mall shimmered with Christmas lights. A towering Christmas tree stood in the central plaza, glittering with glass ornaments and golden tinsel, swaying in the cold breeze. The sound of jingle bells rang cheerfully from the loudspeakers, blending with the chatter and laughter of the crowd. Maya Thompson, 29, held tightly to the hands of her triplet sons, Evan, Elias, and Ezra, as they weaved through the bustling crowd. The 4-year-olds wore matching red sweaters, their pom-pom beanies bouncing with every hop, drawing attention from everyone around. "Mommy, I want to see Santa." Evan, the eldest, tugged at her hand, his big brown eyes sparkling with excitement. Always the leader of the trio, he had a bold personality and a non-stop chatter, proudly calling himself the captain of the team. "All right, but no running off, Evan." Maya smiled, her voice gentle but laced with exhaustion. A preschool teacher and a single mother, she was used to managing on her own. But 3 energetic boys were still a handful, especially in a place this crowded. Elias, the curious one with a mop of curly hair, pointed toward the distant ice cream counter. "Mom, can we get chocolate ice cream? I saw one with marshmallows too." He was always full of questions, from why snow falls to the most difficult one. "Where did Daddy go?" A question Maya never knew how to fully answer. "Let Mommy get the Santa tickets first, Elias," Maya replied, digging through her wallet for loose change. She glanced at Ezra, the shy youngest, who clutched a green toy car and clung tightly to her leg. "Ezra, sweetie, do you want ice cream?" Ezra shook his head, lips pressed together, eyes fixed on his glittery shoes. Maya gently patted his head, a pang tugging at her heart. Ezra was more sensitive than his brothers, and in crowded places he clung to her like he was afraid to be lost. She led her boys toward the Santa display area, where a wooden fence decorated with LED lights and pine garlands encircled the space. She double-checked the tickets in her hand, trying to stay composed amid the squeals and laughter of excited children. This was a rare outing for them during Christmas, and she wanted it to be perfect. A day without worries, without questions about the father they'd never met. Suddenly, Evan stopped in his tracks, nearly causing Maya to stumble. He froze, eyes wide, pointing at a tall man stepping out of a jewelry store just a few feet away. He wore a long black coat, dark brown hair falling over his forehead, and his chiseled face carried a cold but striking expression. He was on the phone, brows slightly furrowed, seemingly oblivious to the festive chaos around him. "Daddy!" Evan exclaimed, his clear voice echoing over the Christmas music. "Daddy!" Elias and Ezra chimed in, letting go of Maya's hand and darting toward the man. Maya froze, heart pounding. She turned, and time stopped. Standing there in the crowd was Liam Carter, her ex-husband, the man she hadn't seen in 4 years. His face looked just as sharp as she remembered. Those deep blue eyes that once made her fall hard now clouded with something distant and unreadable. Time hadn't changed him much, only made him seem colder, more unreachable. The boys threw themselves at him, hugging his legs. Evan looked up, a radiant grin on his face. "Daddy, Daddy, I knew it was you!" Elias giggled, trying to climb onto his knee, while Ezra, though hesitant, wrapped his little arms around Liam's pant leg, dropping his toy car on the ground. Liam bent down stunned. He ended his call, slipped the phone into his coat pocket, and stared at the 3 small faces in front of him. They looked identical and eerily like him. The wide brown eyes, the little noses, the bright smiles. It was as if he were looking at copies of his childhood self. He instinctively stepped back, but the boys held on, chirping "Daddy" over and over. "They've got the wrong person," Liam murmured hoarsely, until his eyes found Maya's, and all his words caught in his throat. "Maya?" She stood frozen, gripping the strap of her bag so tightly her knuckles turned white. She wanted to run, to scream, but her feet were cemented in place. 4 years of pain, of raising 3 children alone, now rushed back in one crashing moment. And the man who broke her heart stood before her, being called Daddy by her sons. "Boys, come back to Mommy," Maya said, her voice trembling but trying to sound firm. She stepped forward, knelt, pulled Ezra into her arms and picked up his toy car. "Evan, Elias, come here now." "But he's Daddy," Evan protested, still clutching Liam's coat sleeve. "I saw his picture in Mommy's box." Right, Elias? Yes, yes. Elias nodded eagerly, eyes gleaming. Ezra said nothing, staying close to Maya, but he kept sneaking glances at Liam. That's not Daddy, Maya cut in, her voice sharper now, though her heart ached. She couldn't look Liam in the eyes, not with the weight of what stood between them. The sight of him surrounded by the three boys felt like a stolen dream, one she no longer had the right to claim. Liam stood tall again, but his eyes never left Maya. Maya? What's going on? His voice was deep, confused, tinged with anger. These kids. Who are they? Maya shielded her sons behind her. They're my children, she said coldly, though her eyes shimmered as if tears were threatening to fall. They mistook you for someone else. I'm sorry for the trouble. She turned away, grabbing the boy's hands and walking quickly toward the Santa area. Evan kept glancing back, mumbling, but he looked like Daddy. Elias tugged at her hand, while Ezra clutched his toy car and walked silently. Maya could feel Liam's gaze burning into her back, like a slow flame rekindling the wound she had buried deep. Liam stood there, surrounded by glittering lights and Christmas cheer, feeling like he had been swept into a storm. The faces of those three boys, Evan, Elias, Ezra, were etched into his mind. And Maya? She was still as beautiful as ever, but her eyes held a sorrow he couldn't comprehend. He clenched his fists, a storm brewing inside him. If the children weren't mistaken, what had he missed these past 4 years? Welcome to Soul Stories, your home for heart-touching tales of love, hope, and second chances. If you believe in the power of kindness and the magic of unexpected connections, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing family. Now let's begin today's story. Maya sat in the small kitchen of her Atlanta apartment, the dim yellow light casting soft shadows across her face. Her three sons, Evan, Elias, and Ezra, were fast asleep in the next room, their gentle breathing audible through the slightly ajar door. On the table sat a cold cup of tea, and in her hands was an old worn photograph. It was their wedding photo, taken beneath the oak trees at Piedmont Park. She wore a simple white dress, and Liam, in a gray suit, stood behind her, smiling brightly with his arms wrapped tightly around her. On the back, in blue ink, were the handwritten words, "Our forever." But that forever had shattered, and today's encounter at Peachtree Mall had unearthed memories Maya had spent 5 years trying to bury. Liam's face, the look in his eyes as he gazed at the boys, the husky way he had said her name. It was like a blade reopening a wound that had never truly healed. She gripped the photo tighter, fighting back the tears, but her mind drifted to the past, to the days when love had once been everything. 7 years earlier, Maya had met Liam at a coffee shop in Midtown Atlanta. She was a student studying early childhood education, always carrying a notebook filled with messy doodles. He was a young entrepreneur, building his own tech company, cold on the outside but with eyes that warmed every time they looked at her. They literally ran into each other. She had spilled her coffee on his crisp white shirt. Flustered, she apologized repeatedly, but he just smiled and said, "If you buy me another one, I'll forgive you." From that moment, they became inseparable. Liam fell in love with Maya's gentleness and passion, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about the children at the preschool. Maya loved Liam's determination, the way he always found ways to make her laugh, whether it was a goofy text in the middle of a work day or a surprise evening under the stars. After 2 years of dating, they married in a small ceremony with only close family and friends. Maya believed it was the beginning of a fairy tale. But fairy tales don't last. 2 years into the marriage, when Maya discovered she was pregnant, the cracks began to show. Liam, overwhelmed by mounting pressure at work during a tough economy, grew distant. He worked late, barely spoke to her, and their dinners together became rare. Maya tried to be patient, thinking it was just a phase. He left for a business trip, and she looked forward to the day he came back so she could tell him about the surprise. They weren't having one baby, but 3. The doctor had confirmed she was pregnant with triplets, something rare and deeply meaningful to her. But everything crumbled the night he returned. Liam came home with a dark expression and threw a folder onto the table. Inside were photographs of Maya embracing another man, Daniel, Liam's best friend, at a cafe. There were also text messages, sent from Maya's number, full of intimate words as if she were cheating. I love you, Daniel. Liam doesn't understand me the way you do. Maya froze, shaking her head in disbelief. She tried to explain that she had never sent those messages, that she had only met Daniel to plan a surprise gift for Liam. Liam, you have to believe me, she sobbed, grabbing his hand. I didn't do anything wrong. Someone set this up, I swear. But Liam, pride wounded and heart shattered, refused to listen. I've seen enough, Maya, he said, his voice ice cold. I can't live with someone I no longer trust. He turned and walked out, leaving Maya collapsed on the floor, holding her belly, where 3 small lives were growing. In the days that followed, Maya tried to reach out. She sent dozens of texts, made countless calls, until Liam blocked her number. She contacted Daniel, who was just as shocked and swore he had nothing to do with it. But Liam refused to see either of them. A month later, Maya received divorce papers from a lawyer, along with a short note. Let's set each other free. No explanation, no chance to fix things. Maya was crushed, but she knew she couldn't fall apart. She was carrying 3 children, and they needed her to be strong. Heartbroken and disillusioned, she made the decision to keep the pregnancy a secret. If Liam didn't trust her, if he was willing to throw away their love over a few manipulated photos, then he didn't deserve to know about the children. She left Atlanta for a while, moved in with her mother in Savannah, gave birth to Evan, Elias, and Ezra, and started over. For the past 5 years, she had been their everything. Their mother, their father, their protector. She taught them how to tie their shoes, how to share their toys, and how to smile even when life was hard. Back in the present, Maya wiped her tears and tucked the wedding photo into a drawer. She didn't want the boys to see her cry, especially Ezra, who was so sensitive he always sensed when she was sad. But the moment at the mall haunted her. Evan, with the confidence of an older brother, had called Liam Daddy without hesitation. Elias, ever curious, had brought up the photo from her keepsake box, and Ezra, though quiet, had looked at Liam like he was searching for something. They had never met him before, yet something, instinct or fate, had drawn them to him. She stood and stepped out onto the small balcony, inhaling the sharp winter air of Atlanta. Somewhere out there, Liam was thinking about her. She was sure of it. But what was he thinking? Was he angry for being kept in the dark, confused by how much the boys resembled him? Or was he just a stranger, swept into a strange moment he'd soon forget? At that very moment, in a luxury penthouse in downtown Atlanta, Liam sat on the couch, a glass of whiskey in hand. In front of him was a tablet, playing footage from Peachtree Mall's security cameras. He had asked his assistant to retrieve the video right after he left the mall. On the screen, the 3 little boys, Evan, Elias, and Ezra, ran toward him, arms wide, shouting, "Daddy!" With pure joy. He zoomed in, studying each tiny face. The brown eyes, the small noses, the radiant smiles. They looked so much like him it made his skin crawl. Maya, he murmured, his voice thick with questions. She had said they were her children, but the look in her eyes, the way she had pulled them away from him, it was like she was hiding something. If they weren't his, why would they call him Daddy? And if they were, what had he missed over the last 5 years? Liam set the glass down, grabbed his phone, and called his assistant. Find out everything about Maya Thompson, where she lives, what she does, and those kids. I want to know everything. He stared out the window, the city lights reflected in his eyes. A strange feeling stirred in his gut. This encounter at the mall wasn't a coincidence, and the truth, no matter how painful, was waiting to be uncovered. Liam Carter sat in his sleek top-floor office in downtown Atlanta, the city lights shimmering beyond the wide-glass windows. It was nearly midnight, but he couldn't take his eyes off the tablet screen. The security footage from Peachtree Mall played on repeat, drawing him in like a whirlpool. The 3 boys, Evan, Elias, and Ezra, ran toward him, wrapping around his legs, their voices chiming in unison. Daddy! Their radiant smiles, big brown eyes, even the way Elias tilted his head when he spoke. It all looked so much like him, it made his chest tighten. 2 days had passed since that unexpected moment at the mall, but the images wouldn't leave his mind. He tried to return to his routine, million-dollar meetings, executive calls, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw Maya. The pain in her eyes, the guarded way she'd pulled the boys away from him. "They're my children," she'd said coldly, but the way she clutched their hands like she was afraid he'd take them from her kept echoing in his mind. Why did they call me Daddy? Liam set the tablet down and rubbed his temples. He wasn't the kind of man who let emotions dictate his actions, but this time something was different. There was something in the boys' eyes, the way they looked at him. It stirred a strange connection in him, like a part of himself stood before him, but just out of reach. And Maya? She wasn't the same woman he once knew. No longer the gentle, wide-eyed girl who once made his heart skip. She was stronger now, hardened, and carrying a scar he knew. Deep down, he had helped create. He picked up his phone and opened the email from his assistant, Rachel. The night after the mall encounter, he had instructed her to find everything she could about Maya Thompson. The preliminary report had just arrived. Liam opened the file, a mix of anticipation and anxiety swirling in his gut. It was short but thorough. Maya was now a preschool teacher at a public school on the outskirts of Atlanta. She lived in a modest apartment and was raising her 3 sons, Evan, Elias, and Ezra, on her own, all 4 years old. No information about the father, no husband, no boyfriend, no close relatives except her mother in Savannah. Maya had lived quietly, almost invisibly, for the past 5 years. Liam paused, his breath catching. Raising triplets alone. He tried to picture it. Maya, the girl who once lit up when he brought her wildflowers, now juggling 3 boys, sleepless nights, long work days, and endless questions from children about a father they'd never met. He flipped through the report again, looking for any hint about the children's father, but there was nothing. Just one line. The children were born a few months after Maya left Atlanta. No father is listed on the birth certificates. He stood and walked to the window, watching the stream of headlights below. A painful thought began to form. If the boys were 4, and Maya had been pregnant before their divorce, then maybe... He shook his head, trying to push the thought away. But it clung to him. Their faces, their smiles, they didn't just resemble him. They looked exactly like his childhood photos, the ones his mother still kept in her old family albums. "She should have told me," he muttered, voice tight with both anger and anguish. If Evan, Elias, and Ezra were his sons, why had Maya kept them from him? Why had she let him live 5 years unaware he was a father? But then a different memory surged. The night he'd thrown those photos onto the table, accused her of cheating, and walked out without giving her a chance to explain. He hadn't trusted her. He hadn't listened. Now he wondered if he even deserved to know the truth. Liam returned to his desk and searched for Maya's name online. Her social media was locked, but he found a public post from the preschool where she worked. It was a photo from a Christmas performance. Maya stood among the children, her smile gentle but her eyes distant. Beside her were 3 little boys dressed as tiny Santas, grinning widely. Liam zoomed in, his heart thudded in his chest. There was no doubt now. Evan, Elias, and Ezra bore his face, as if carved from the same mold. The fury inside him surged, but not just at Maya. He was angry at himself. Angry for the years he'd lost, for the pride that made him push her away, for the wounds he'd left behind. He wanted to face her, to ask her why, to demand the truth. But deep down he feared the answer, that he had destroyed something irreplaceable. He texted Rachel, "Get me Maya's address. I need to see her." But the moment he hit send, he hesitated. If he showed up, would she even let him in? Or would she push him away again, like she did at the mall? He remembered her eyes, that mix of sorrow and resolve, and knew the walls she'd built wouldn't come down easily. Meanwhile, in her small apartment, Maya was tucking Ezra into bed. The youngest clutched his toy car tightly, eyes still wide open despite yawning over and over. "Mommy, that man at the mall, was he Daddy?" Ezra whispered, his tiny voice enough to make Maya pause. She forced a smile, brushing his curls gently. "No, sweetheart. He just looked like someone Mommy used to know." But her voice trembled, and she knew Ezra could tell. He was the most sensitive of the 3. He always knew when she was hiding something. Evan and Elias were already fast asleep in the next bed, but Maya knew they were just as curious. Evan had boldly declared that the man was Daddy. Elias had asked about the wedding photo in her memory box. She had tried to keep everything under control, but that unexpected meeting with Liam had unraveled it all. She turned off the light and stepped into the living room, sinking onto the couch. The wedding photo still sat in the drawer, but she couldn't bring herself to look at it again. For 5 years, she had built a life for her and her boys, a life without Liam. But now he had returned, and she wasn't sure if she had the strength to face him, or the emotions she had tried so hard to bury. Back in his penthouse, Liam stared at his phone. His finger hovered over the contact of an old friend. Daniel, the man he'd once accused of betraying him. He wanted to call, to dig up the truth, but he stopped himself. Instead, he typed one more message to Rachel. See if you can access medical records for the boys. I need to know everything. He stood again, looking out over the city. A quiet determination lit his features. If Evan, Elias, and Ezra were his sons, he wouldn't let them grow up without their father. But first, he needed the truth. And no matter the cost, he would find it. Late afternoon in the suburbs of Atlanta, the golden hues of sunset bathed the quiet street in warmth. Maya's modest 2-story house nestled between tall oak trees, the front yard scattered with plastic toys and a small swing. The laughter of 3 boys, Evan, Elias, and Ezra, rang out from the corner of the yard, where they were building a fort out of wooden planks and cardboard boxes. Maya stood on the porch, holding a glass of water, her gaze gentle but tinged with unease. Ever since the unexpected encounter at Peachtree Mall, she couldn't shake the feeling that a part of her past was clawing its way back. The rumble of an engine broke the quiet. A sleek black SUV pulled up at the curb, and Liam Carter stepped out. He wore a light blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up, a small toy store bag in one hand. His face remained as striking as ever, but there was an uncharacteristic hesitation in his eyes. He stood there for a moment, watching the boys play in the yard. Evan was barking orders, directing his brothers to arrange the planks according to his fort plan. Elias dug at the dirt with a plastic shovel, searching for treasure. Ezra sat quietly on the grass, piecing together a tiny Lego car. Liam felt his heart pound. Their faces, their gestures, it was all eerily familiar, awakening something both foreign and deeply known. He took a deep breath and stepped through the gate. Evan spotted him first. "Hey, it's the man from the mall," he shouted, running over with a bright smile. Elias looked up, eyes wide with recognition, while Ezra clutched his Legos a little tighter, watching cautiously. Maya turned sharply, nearly dropping the glass in her hand. She set it down quickly and stepped off the porch, her expression a blend of shock and guarded resolve. "Liam," she said, her voice low but trembling, "what are you doing here?" Liam raised the paper bag slightly, his tone gentle but strained. "I brought a few things for the kids. Just some toys. That's all. No agenda." His eyes moved between the boys and Maya. "I just want to talk, Maya, 5 minutes." Evan peeked into the bag. "Toys? What kind?" Elias bounced excitedly. "I love trains." Ezra said nothing, but his curious eyes flicked toward Liam. Maya hesitated, her gaze lingering on the bag before returning to Liam. She knelt down in front of the boys with a soft smile. "Why don't you take the toys over to the yard, sweethearts? Mommy just needs a quick chat with the guest, okay?" Then she looked up at Liam, her eyes clear with warning. "Don't push it." Evan grabbed his brother's hands and pulled them toward their play area. The trio laid out a picnic blanket and eagerly dug through the bag, exclaiming over a toy train set, building blocks and animal puzzles. Laughter and bickering soon followed as they argued over how to assemble the train tracks. Maya led Liam back to the porch, far enough so the kids wouldn't hear. She folded her arms, her voice cool but full of unspoken hurt. "Say it, Liam. What do you want?" Liam stood across from her, hands in his pockets, trying to steady his voice. "I can't stop thinking about the boys, Maya. Their faces. They look just like me. I did some checking. I know you've been raising them alone. If they're mine, why didn't she tell me?" Maya's jaw tightened. Her eyes flared with pain as she replied in a low, sharp tone. "Careful not to let the children hear. They are my sons," she said firmly. "I've raised them, loved them, alone for the past 5 years. You don't get to just show up and start asking questions like you've been part of their lives. Liam looked away briefly, like he'd been slapped. He glanced at the boys again, now giggling over the train set, and his voice dropped to a pained whisper. Maya, I didn't know. If I had known you were pregnant, if I had known about them, things could have been different. I was wrong, I know that. But if they're my children, I want to be part of their lives. Maya let out a bitter laugh. Part of their lives? You left me, Liam. You believed some fake photos and phony messages over the woman you married. I begged you to listen. I begged. And you turned your back. For 5 years, I've done everything to give them a good life. And now you think you can just walk in with a few toys and claim to be their father? Liam was silent, his hands trembling slightly. He wanted to tell her how much he regretted it, how pride had blinded him. But Maya's words were too sharp, and she wasn't wrong. I'm not trying to take them from you, he said hoarsely. I just want the truth. If they're mine, I want to do what's right, even if it's late. Maya turned away, eyes glistening. She looked toward her sons, playing so freely, and her heart cracked. The truth is, I've done everything to protect them, she said, voice shaking. And I'll keep protecting them, even if that means protecting them from you. Don't come near us again, Liam. I won't let my boys get hurt. She walked inside, the door closing softly but with finality. Liam stood there staring out toward the boys. Evan was guiding his brothers through the tracks. Elias was laughing after knocking a piece over, and Ezra was carefully placing Legos together, glancing toward Liam now and then. A deep ache burned in Liam's chest, not just from Maya's words but from the distance between him and the children who might be his. He turned toward his car. A quiet resolve filled him. He wouldn't force Maya, but he couldn't walk away either. If Evan, Elias, and Ezra were his sons, he would prove himself worthy, not just to them, but to her. Inside, Maya sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands, trying to muffle her sobs. From the yard came the sound of her son's laughter, and it broke her. Evan rushed in, holding up a train car. Mom, that man brought awesome toys. Is he coming back? Elias and Ezra followed, eyes gleaming. Maya forced a smile and pulled them into a hug. He was just visiting, sweetheart, she said gently. Go play some more. Mommy will start dinner. But as she held them close, she knew Liam wouldn't give up so easily. And deep down she feared her heart, no matter how locked, might still be vulnerable to him. Early morning in the suburbs of Atlanta, the Little Sprouts preschool buzzed with children's laughter. The playground was a burst of color. Slides, swings, and murals of jungle animals painted across the walls. Maya stood at the school gate, holding the hands of her 3 sons, Evan, Elias, and Ezra, giving them their morning reminders. Evan, no fighting over toys today, okay? Elias, remember to listen to your teacher. Ezra, if you need mommy, just tell your teacher, all right? She gently patted each of their heads, smiling tenderly, though her eyes betrayed lingering worry since her confrontation with Liam the evening before. Got it, Mommy, Evan replied confidently, slinging his superhero backpack over his shoulders. Elias, ever curious, tugged at her hand. Mom, do we have art class today? Ezra, quiet and shy, clutched the toy car Liam had given him and simply nodded. Maya kissed each of their foreheads, watching them run toward the playground, her heart heavy. She knew Liam wouldn't give up easily, and with each passing day she feared he'd find a way to get closer to the boys. Not far away, Liam sat in his car, parked discreetly near the preschool. Dressed in a plain t-shirt and wearing a baseball cap to stay inconspicuous. He held a small box of cookies in his lap, a gift he'd planned to deliver to the boys' class as a reason to visit. After their last conversation, he'd decided not to confront Maya again. Not yet. Instead, he wanted to get close to the boys, to observe them, to search for the truth in a gentler way. But deep down, he knew he was walking a fine line, between the yearning to be a father and the fear of hurting Maya all over again. He entered the preschool and was warmly greeted by the director after introducing himself as a friend of Miss Thompson's, here to drop off a treat for the class. The cookies and his friendly demeanor granted him easy access to the playground, where the children were enjoying outdoor activity time. Immediately he spotted Evan, Elias, and Ezra among the crowd. Evan was leading a superhero game. Elias was scribbling on the chalkboard, and Ezra sat alone in a corner, carefully building a Lego tower. One of the teachers said a special guest is here, a voice called, and the children swarmed around Liam, eyes wide at the sight of the cookie box. Evan was the first to rush over, beaming. "You brought the toys yesterday. You're the guy." Elias pointed at him, grinning. "You gave us the train set." Ezra looked up from his Legos, gaze shy but steady, as if trying to figure out who Liam really was. Liam smiled, kneeling to be at eye level with the kids. "That's right. Today I brought cookies for everyone. But you have to share, okay?" He opened the box and the children cheered, forming a line. Evan grabbed 2 cookies, one for himself and one for Ezra. Elias devoured his, crumbs covering his mouth, while Ezra nibbled carefully, eyes still flicking toward Liam. After the treats, Liam sat beside Ezra, watching him stack his Lego blocks. "That's a cool tower," Liam said softly. "What do you like building the most?" Ezra blushed and mumbled, "Cars and houses." Liam picked up a piece and helped him add another layer. Ezra slowly warmed up, showing Liam how to build a secret door. Evan and Elias soon joined, dragging Liam into their superhero game. Evan declared him the mystery hero, while Elias insisted he play the villain so they could chase him. Liam laughed, genuinely, freely, for the first time in years. He ran after the boys, pretending to fall when Evan tackled him, and their laughter filled the air. In that moment, he wasn't a cold CEO. He was just a man yearning to connect with the children who might be his. When playtime ended, the kids sat under a tree to rest. Elias, always curious, suddenly tugged on Liam's sleeve. "You look like the man in Mommy's picture," he said innocently. Liam froze, his heart skipped. "What picture, Elias?" "The one in Mommy's box," Elias said brightly. "She hides it, but I saw it. It's her in a white dress, and there's a guy who looks like you. He's smiling really big." Evan nodded quickly, jumping in. "I saw it too. Mommy says it's an old photo, but she looks at it when she's sad." Liam felt his blood rush. He looked at Elias, then Evan, and finally at Ezra, who had dropped his eyes to the ground, as if afraid he'd said too much. A wedding photo. Maya still kept it. After all these years, despite everything she'd said. And the boys, they knew about it. They recognized him. From that photo. From their photo. "Thank you for telling me," Liam said, his voice thick, trying to stay composed. He ruffled Elias's hair, smiled at Evan, and handed Ezra another Lego piece. But inside, a storm was rising. If Maya still kept the wedding photo, if the boys recognized him from it, then there was no doubt left in his heart. Evan, Elias, and Ezra were his sons. At that same moment, Maya was across town at another preschool, preparing materials for her class. Her phone buzzed. A message from one of the teachers at Little Sprouts. "Mr. Liam came by today with cookies for the kids. They really liked him." Maya froze, her hand trembling. Liam had gone to the school. He had approached the boys despite her warning. Anger boiled in her chest, but beneath it, a rising fear. Fear that her sons would begin to love him, and fear that she wouldn't be able to keep them from him forever. She rushed out of the school and drove straight to Little Sprouts. By the time she arrived, Liam was gone. But Evan, Elias, and Ezra ran up to her, bubbling over with stories of Mr. Liam and the yummy cookies. Ezra, usually the quiet one, tugged her sleeve and whispered, "He helped me build a Lego car, Mommy." Maya forced a smile, pulling them all into her arms. "He was just visiting, sweetheart," she said softly. "Go back and play for a little while, okay? Mommy's going to make dinner soon." But as she held them close, her thoughts churned. Liam was slipping into their lives, and she didn't know how much longer she could keep him out. Back at his penthouse, Liam sat on the sofa, holding the wedding photo. He looked at his and Maya's faces in the picture, then thought of Evan, Elias, and Ezra. A quiet determination rose within him. He wouldn't force Maya, but he would do everything he could to be a father to his sons, and maybe, just maybe, to make things right. Night fell over Atlanta, and the cold air swept through the windows of Maya's small apartment. In the living room, Evan and Elias sat on the rug playing with the toy train, set Liam had given them, their laughter ringing out between the clacks of plastic tracks. But Maya couldn't focus on their joy. She stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner, her heart heavy after receiving a message from the teacher about Liam visiting the preschool. He had found his way into her children's lives despite her warning, and she didn't know how to stop him without hurting Evan, Elias, and Ezra. Suddenly, a small scream rang out from the bedroom. Maya dropped the knife and rushed in, her heart pounding. Ezra, her youngest, lay on the bed, his small body trembling, his face pale, sweat beading on his forehead. "Ezra! Baby!" Maya dropped to her knees, wrapping him in her arms, trying to stay calm. She touched his forehead. It was burning. Evan and Elias ran in behind her, their wide eyes filled with fear. "Mom, what's wrong with Ezra?" Evan asked, his voice shaking. "He'll be okay, sweetheart," Maya said, though her voice broke. She picked Ezra up and checked his temperature. 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit. He started breathing rapidly, eyes shut tight, his body still shaking. Maya knew this wasn't a normal fever. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped her phone as she called for an ambulance. "Please, save my son," she whispered to the operator. At the hospital, the ER was stifling with tension. Maya sat beside Ezra's bed, holding his hand, her eyes locked on his small face. A middle-aged doctor with a calming voice entered, after reviewing the test results. "Ms. Thompson, Ezra has a severe infection and signs of anemia. He needs an immediate blood transfusion, but his blood type is AB negative, very rare. Do you have this blood type?" Maya shook her head, tears brimming. "No! I'm O positive." She paused, her heart clenching as she thought of Liam. She remembered when they used to live together, how Liam's mother had once proudly mentioned over dinner that both she and Liam had AB negative blood, a rare trait. Maya wasn't sure if Ezra shared that type. But in this desperate moment, with Ezra lying limp in the bed, she had no other choice. Her hands shaking, she pulled out her phone and dialed Liam, the number he had left after visiting the school. "Liam," she said when he answered, her voice choked. "Ezra, he's at the hospital. He needs a transfusion, a B negative. I think you might have that type. Please come now." Less than 15 minutes later, Liam burst into the ER, his coat damp with rain. He looked at Ezra lying on the bed, an IV in his tiny arm, and felt as if something had gripped his chest tight. He turned to Maya, his eyes filled with concern. "How is he?" Maya didn't look at him, only held Ezra's hand tighter. "He needs blood. The doctor is checking." Her voice was steady, but Liam's presence unsettled her. She felt both grateful and terrified. The doctor returned, holding Liam's test results. "Mr. Carter, your blood type is AB negative, a perfect match. We can begin the transfusion right away. Are you ready?" Liam nodded without hesitation, shrugging off his coat. "Let's do it." In the transfusion room, Liam sat in a chair, his arm connected to a tube, his eyes never leaving Ezra through the glass. He thought about the shy little boy, the way Ezra carefully stacked Legos, the way he'd secretly glanced at him at preschool. If Ezra was his son, and the matching blood type only strengthened that suspicion, he would do anything to save him. The transfusion was successful. Ezra began to stabilize, color returning to his face. Maya sat beside him, tears silently falling as she stroked his hair. Evan and Elias, who had been watched by a nurse in the waiting room, rushed in and wrapped their arms around her. "Ezra's okay now, right, Mommy?" Elias asked, his eyes wide with hope. Maya nodded, offering a faint smile. "Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for being brave." Liam stood at the doorway, watching the scene unfold, his heart a mix of relief and pain. He stepped inside, his voice low. "He's okay?" Maya nodded but still avoided his gaze. He couldn't hold it back any longer. "Maya, Ezra's blood type, and mine. You know what that means, don't you? Why didn't you tell me? If Ezra, Evan, and Elias are my children, why did you hide them from me for 5 years?" Maya stood, gesturing for the nurse to take Evan and Elias out of the room. Once they were alone, she turned to him, her eyes burning with a storm of hurt. "You want to know why?" Her voice was sharp but restrained. "Because when I needed you most, you chose to believe someone else. You threw fake photos in my face, called me a traitor, and walked away. I begged you, but you didn't listen. I had to protect my kids, Liam, and I couldn't trust that you'd stay if you knew. Liam lowered his head, his fists clenched. Her words cut deep. He wanted to say he was sorry, that he had been wrong, but he knew nothing could undo 5 years of her pain. I didn't know about the kids, he said hoarsely. If I had, Maya, I swear, I never would have left. Maya let out a bitter laugh, tears rolling down her cheeks. But you did leave, Liam, and I learned how to live without you. She turned back to Ezra, gently stroking his hand like a shield against the world. Thank you for saving him, but don't think this changes everything. Liam stood there in silence looking at Maya and Ezra. He wanted to stay, to hold his son, to tell Evan and Elias he wouldn't disappear again. But Maya's eyes, both wounded and resolute, told him he wasn't ready yet. He nodded faintly and walked out of the room. But in his heart, a quiet determination stirred. He wouldn't pressure her, but he would prove he could be the father the boys needed. In the hospital room, Maya sat beside Ezra, listening to his steady breathing. Evan and Elias returned, carrying a crayon drawing of the three brothers and Mom. For Ezra to get better, Elias said, placing the drawing beside his pillow. Maya smiled and pulled them into a hug, her heart heavy with emotion. Liam had saved Ezra, and she knew he wouldn't stop there. No matter how hard she tried, Maya feared that neither her sons nor her own heart could run from him forever. Early morning in Atlanta. Soft sunlight streamed through the windows of Liam Carter's luxurious penthouse. He sat on the sofa, holding a cup of cold coffee. After the night at the hospital, after he donated blood to save Ezra, his heart felt like it had been torn open. A perfect blood-type match. A B negative. The look in Evan, Elias, and Ezra's eyes. The innocent words from Elias about the wedding photo. Everything confirmed what he had long suspected. The boys were his sons. And yet Maya's words echoed, sharp and painful. You left, Liam, and I learned how to live without you. Liam couldn't sit still. If he wanted a chance to be a father, or even to be the man Maya had once loved, he needed the truth. The truth about what really happened 5 years ago, when he believed she had betrayed him. He picked up his phone and scrolled to Daniel's number, his former best friend, the man he once thought was Maya's lover. For 5 years Liam had avoided Daniel, but now he needed answers. He arranged to meet him at a coffee shop in Midtown, the place where it had all begun. The cafe looked the same as ever, still filled with the scent of roasted beans and local artwork on the walls. Daniel, now a software engineer, walked in, his expression a mix of surprise and caution. Liam, he greeted sitting across from him. It's been a long time. You doing okay? Liam didn't waste time. He placed a worn folder on the table. The same folder of photos he had received 5 years ago. Pictures of Maya embracing Daniel, accompanied by forged text messages. I need the truth, Daniel, Liam said, his voice low and steady, but tight with pressure. These photos, these messages, where did they come from? I know now Maya never sent them. So who did? Daniel paled, his hand tightening around his coffee cup. He lowered his gaze as if wrestling with guilt. Liam, I tried to tell you back then, but you wouldn't listen. There was nothing between me and Maya. She met with me to pick out a surprise for you. A watch, remember? She wanted to surprise you. Liam nodded slowly, eyes locked on Daniel. Then how did these photos come about? Who sent them to me? Daniel exhaled shakily. It was Victoria. She had feelings for you, Liam. She couldn't stand seeing you happy with Maya. She hired someone to take photos when Maya met me, then faked the text from her number. I found out after you and Maya divorced. But by then, it was too late. Maya had left Atlanta, and you wouldn't listen to anyone. Liam felt his blood boil. Victoria, Maya's so-called friend, the woman who always smiled at their dinner parties, who seemed so supportive, had been the one to destroy their marriage. He clenched his fists, trying to stay calm. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Liam asked, voice hoarse. I tried, Daniel said, full of regret. But you blocked me. You blocked Maya. And Victoria. She threatened me. Said she'd ruin my career if I said anything. I was a coward, Liam. I'm sorry. Liam stood up without another word. He needed to see Victoria. He needed to hear her admit it. To her face. He found her number. She was now a prominent event planner in Atlanta. He called and demanded a meeting. That afternoon in a sleek Buckhead office, Victoria sat across from Liam. Her usual confident smile faded the moment she saw his cold expression. "Liam, it's been a while," she said, trying to sound warm. But there was a trace of worry in her voice. "What brings you here so suddenly?" Liam didn't bother with pleasantries. He set the folder and printed messages on the table. "Tell me the truth, Victoria. You faked the messages. You hired someone to take those pictures. You made me think Maya was cheating. Why?" Victoria's face went pale. Her hands trembled slightly. She tried to smile, but it was forced. "Liam, what are you saying? I didn't—" "Don't lie," he cut in, his voice low and sharp. "Daniel told me everything. I want to hear it from you. If you don't talk, I'll make sure all of Atlanta knows how you ruined someone's life." Victoria looked down. Tears welled in her eyes, but Liam wasn't sure if they were from guilt or performance. "Fine," she whispered. "I did it. I loved you, Liam. I couldn't bear to see you choose Maya. I thought, if she left, maybe you'd turn to me. But I was wrong. I never thought it would go that far." Liam felt like he couldn't breathe. 5 years of Maya's suffering, 5 years of his children growing up without a father, all because of Victoria's selfishness. He wanted to scream, to smash something. Instead, he stood, his voice like ice. "You destroyed my family, Victoria. Live with that." And he walked out, heavy with grief. That evening, Liam stood in front of Maya's house, holding the folder and a handwritten letter. His heart pounded as he knocked on the door. Maya opened it, guarded as always. From inside, the sounds of Evan, Elias, and Ezra playing with Legos drifted into the night. "I told you not to come," she said, her voice tight with restraint. "I know," Liam replied quietly, "but you deserve the truth." He handed her the folder and the letter. Victoria did it all. She faked the texts. She had those pictures taken. "I was wrong not to trust you, Maya. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness tonight, but I needed you to know. I regret everything, and I want to make it right." Maya's hands trembled as she took the folder. She skimmed the letter. His words about what he had discovered, the pain of realizing what he'd missed, and a promise not to force her, but to always be there if she needed him. Tears welled in her eyes, but she wiped them quickly. "It's too late, Liam," she said, her voice breaking. "The kids grew up without you. I went through everything alone. An apology doesn't undo that." She stepped back, her gaze firm but full of sorrow. "Thank you for the truth," she said softly. "But I need time, and the boys, they need me more than anything right now." She closed the door gently, leaving Liam standing on the porch. Inside, Maya knelt beside her sons as they worked on building a fort from Legos. "Mommy, did Mr. Liam bring toys again?" Elias asked, his eyes wide with hope. Maya smiled faintly, brushing his hair. "No, sweetheart, he just stopped by." She pulled them all into a tight hug, her tears silent. The truth had finally come out, but it couldn't erase the scars of the past 5 years. Out on the porch, Liam stared at the closed door, his hand tightening around the wedding photo in his pocket. He knew he couldn't force Maya, but he also knew he couldn't walk away. Evan, Elias, and Ezra were his sons, and he would do everything he could to prove he deserved to be their father, and maybe one day to win back the woman he had lost. He walked back to his car, a quiet resolve rising within him. The truth was just the beginning. The road ahead would be longer than he ever imagined. On a weekend morning in suburban Atlanta, Little Sprouts Preschool hosted a picnic at a nearby park. Families gathered under sprawling oak trees, children's laughter blending with the scent of freshly cut grass. Maya stood by a picnic table, arranging cookies and juice, her eyes never leaving her 3 boys, Evan, Elias, and Ezra, who were chasing each other across the lawn. Since Liam came to the house with the truth about Victoria, Maya had tried to keep things normal for her sons. But inside, she was torn. She feared Liam's presence would upend the life she had carefully built over the past 5 years. Liam appeared at the park gate, holding a small gift bag, some balls and a set of coloring books he had thoughtfully chosen to avoid overwhelming anyone. He had gotten permission from the principal to attend as an event volunteer, a subtle way to stay close to the boys without confronting Maya directly. He knew she hadn't forgiven him, but after saving Ezra and learning the truth, he couldn't stay away from their lives any longer. Evan spotted Liam first and shouted, "Uncle Liam, what did you bring?" He ran over, dragging Elias and Ezra behind him. Elias, ever curious, pulled a ball from the bag, his eyes lighting up. "Let's play, Uncle." Ezra, the shyest, lingered behind his brothers, but his eyes lit up at the sight of the coloring books. Maya turned, her eyes hardening as she saw Liam. She walked over, her voice low but controlled. "You shouldn't be here, Liam. I told you I need time." Liam raised his hand in a gesture of peace. "I know, Mayam. I just wanted the boys to have a good day. I promise I'll stay within my limits." She hesitated, glanced at her kids laughing with Liam, then gave a reluctant nod and returned to the picnic table. Liam spent the whole morning with the boys, participating in every game. He raced Evan in a sack race, pretending to lose so the boy could cheer his victory. With Elias, he played catch, patiently teaching him how to aim. Ezra was more reserved, but when Liam sat on the grass and opened a coloring book, drawing a train with him, the little boy slowly warmed up, even giggling when Liam purposely messed up his drawing. At lunchtime, Liam helped Maya hand out sandwiches, standing beside her but keeping a respectful distance. "They're amazing," he said softly, watching the three boys share potato chips on a picnic blanket. Maya didn't respond, but she noticed how Liam paid attention. The way he remembered Evan liked mustard, Elias hated tomatoes, and Ezra would only eat toasted bread. Her heart wavered for a moment, but she quickly buried the feeling, reminding herself of the scars left behind 5 years ago. That evening, Liam volunteered to tell the closing story to the group. Sitting in a circle of children, his deep, warm voice told the tale of a knight who saved an entire kingdom with courage. Evan, Elias, and Ezra sat close to him, their eyes shining. When the story ended, Evan suddenly hugged him and shouted, "You're Daddy, right?" Elias nodded eagerly, and Ezra, though silent, nestled into Liam's arm. From the corner of the room, Maya's heart clenched. She walked over, gently pulling the boys back. "It's time to go, boys," she said, her voice trembling. Liam looked at her, eyes full of hope and remorse. "Thank you for letting me be here today," he said. Maya only nodded and led the boys to the car, but the way Evan looked back at Liam made it impossible for her to shake the thought. They're beginning to love him. That night in their apartment, Maya sat beside the boys' bed, reading a bedtime story. Ezra, clutching a toy car, whispered, "Uncle Liam tells the best stories, Mom." Elias chimed in, "He looks just like the daddy in the photo." Maya forced a smile and kissed their foreheads. "Good night, my loves." But when she turned off the lights, she sat alone on the sofa, her hand brushing the wedding photo tucked away in the drawer. She didn't want to admit it, but Liam was trying, and her heart, though sealed shut for years, was beginning to stir. One weekend afternoon, Liam drove to the nursing home on the outskirts of Atlanta, where his mother Eleanor was spending her final years. He had told her about Evan, Elias, and Ezra, and she had insisted on meeting them. Liam hesitated, knowing Maya still wasn't ready, but he called her, his voice sincere. "Maya, my mom wants to meet the boys, just for one afternoon. I promise, I won't pressure you into anything." After a long pause, Maya agreed, her voice cold. "For the boys, Liam, only for them." At the nursing home, the air was warm and welcoming, filled with watercolor paintings and the smell of freshly baked cookies. Eleanor, her hair silver white but her eyes sharp, sat in a plush chair, eagerly waiting. When Maya arrived with the boys, Eleanor burst into tears, reaching out to hug them. "Oh, my grandchildren," she whispered, stroking Ezra's hair. "They look just like Liam when he was little." Evan asked curiously, "You're our grandma." Elias added, "You know Daddy, right?" Ezra, shy as always, clung to Maya, but when Eleanor offered him a cookie, he smiled. Maya stood quietly watching the scene, overwhelmed by a mixture of emotion and unease. Eleanor took her hand, her voice trembling. "Thank you for raising them, and I'm sorry for what Liam did. He was wrong, but he's trying to make it right." Liam stood in the corner of the room watching his mother with the children, a warmth filling his chest he had never felt before. He helped the boys play with building blocks beside Eleanor, telling stories from his own childhood. how he once built forts like Evan, or doodled just like Elias. Maya observed silently, realizing that Liam wasn't just trying with the boys, he was trying with his family too. That evening they all had dinner in the garden behind the nursing home, lit by strings of glowing lanterns. Evan, Elias, and Ezra sat between Maya and Liam, laughing as Eleanor told tales of Liam ruining her cookies as a child. For the first time in 5 years, Maya felt a flicker of something familiar. Not for Liam, but for the small, imperfect family she once dreamed of. When Ezra accidentally called Liam Daddy while asking for more water, Maya didn't correct him. She only bowed her head to hide her tears. On the drive home, the boys slept peacefully in the back seat. Liam glanced at Maya. "Thank you for coming today," he said softly. "I know it wasn't easy for you." Maya looked out the window, her voice quiet. "I did it for the boys. But I see you're trying, Liam." She stopped as if afraid that saying more would reopen a door she'd long since closed. Back at the apartment, Maya lay beside the boys, listening to their soft breathing. The wedding photo remained in the drawer, but this time it didn't hurt to think about it. Liam was changing, and though she wasn't ready to forgive him, she was beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, they did deserve a second chance. She closed her eyes, a faint smile on her lips, feeling hope for the first time in 5 years. Are you still following the story? Please leave your thoughts on the story in the comments below. All your comments are the motivation for us to create better stories. Don't forget to subscribe to Soul Stories. Thank you very much. The spirit of Christmas filled Little Sprouts Preschool on the outskirts of Atlanta. The small auditorium sparkled with tinsel, twinkling lights, and a towering Christmas tree adorned with shimmering ornaments. Families gathered to watch the year-end performance, laughter and festive music echoing through the halls. Maya sat in the front row, her hands tightly clasped, eyes tender as she watched her 3 sons, Evan, Elias, and Ezra, rehearsing backstage. Ever since the visit to the nursing home, something had shifted inside her. Liam had proven that he wasn't just a father in name. He was truly trying for their sons. But fear still lingered. The fear of opening her heart, only to be broken again. Liam stood quietly in a corner of the room, helping the teachers arrange props, his eyes never straying far from Maya and the boys. He had discreetly coordinated with the principal to support the event, bringing along a small bag of gifts, storybooks and colored pencils for the preschool class. He knew Maya was still hesitant, but he wanted the boys to have a Christmas to remember. Every small act, he hoped, might slowly rebuild the trust he had once shattered. He was patient, knowing that after 5 years of pain, healing would take time. The performance began. Evan, Elias, and Ezra stepped onto the stage in tiny angel costumes, golden paper halos atop their heads. They stood with their classmates and sang, "You Are My Sunshine," their sweet voices filling the auditorium and bringing tears to more than one parent's eyes. Evan led boldly, his voice loud and proud. Elias, slightly offbeat, grinned from ear to ear. Ezra, though shy, held his brother's hands and sang in a quiet, clear voice. Maya clapped with tears shimmering in her eyes, tears of pride and something deeper. After the performance, the boys rushed down to her, pulling Liam over with them. "Mr. Liam, did you hear us sing?" Evan beamed, adjusting his halo. "I sang the loudest, didn't I?" Elias chimed in. Ezra, ever timid, held out a crayon drawing to Liam. 4 stick figures holding hands under a Christmas tree. Liam knelt, his smile warm and gentle. "You all were amazing, and this drawing, I'm going to keep it forever." He ruffled Ezra's hair, feeling a rush of connection, something deep and real. Maya watched the scene, her heart stirring. Liam wasn't just playing with the kids. He knew them. He understood Evan's need to lead, Elias's endless curiosity, and Ezra's quiet need for gentle encouragement. When Liam handed her the bag of gifts for the class, he said softly, "Thank you for letting me be here, Maya. I just want the boys to be happy." She nodded quietly. "They love you," she murmured. I can see that." As the auditorium emptied out, Liam helped Maya clean up. Meanwhile, Evan, Elias, and Ezra ran around the Christmas tree, squealing as Liam playfully chased them, pretending to be a snow monster. Maya stood still watching them. And for the first time in 5 years, she felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't ready to give her heart completely, but she no longer wanted to keep Liam out of their children's lives. That night, Maya sat with her sons reading Christmas stories. Ezra clutched the drawing he had given Liam and whispered, "He liked my picture, Mommy." Elias chimed in, "He's Daddy, isn't he? I saw you smile at him." Maya smiled faintly, kissing their foreheads. "Good night, my loves." After the lights were off, she sat on the couch, her hand resting on the wedding photo tucked in the drawer. She didn't want to admit it, but Liam was becoming a part of them again, and for the first time, she began to believe they might rebuild what was lost. 1 year later, a cozy cabin in suburban Atlanta glowed with warm lights. The front yard was blanketed in snow, where Evan, Elias, and Ezra giggled as they built snowmen, their sweaters speckled with frost. Maya stood on the porch wrapped in a scarf, smiling brightly at her boys. Beside her, Liam carried a tray of steaming cocoa, eyes soft with affection. In the year since Christmas, they had rebuilt their foundation, step by step, from bedtime stories and weekend park visits, to messy baking sessions and quiet talks under the stars. Liam had become more than a father. He had become someone Maya slowly began to trust again. That day in the backyard, Liam had a surprise planned. He had set up a small Christmas tree, decorated with string lights and paper stars made by the boys. As the sun dipped low, he led Maya and the boys outside, where the glowing tree turned the snowy yard into a fairy tale. Evan, Elias, and Ezra squealed with delight, running circles around the tree. Then Liam knelt before Maya, holding a small box. "Maya," he said, his voice trembling, "5 years ago, I destroyed the most precious thing in my life by not believing in you. But thanks to Evan, Elias, and Ezra, I've learned that real love never truly leaves. I've spent the last year proving I'll never walk away again." He opened the box, revealing a gleaming wedding ring. "Will you give me the chance to stand by you and our sons forever?" Behind him, the boys held up a crayon banner that read, "Mommy, say yes." Evan shouted, "Daddy's a superhero." Elias grinned, "Say yes so we get cake." Ezra, shy as ever, took her hand and whispered, "I want Daddy to stay with Mommy." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. She remembered the years of pain, but also the moments when Liam had been patient, when he had saved Ezra, when he had sat for hours building Lego cities and listening to their stories. She took a deep breath, smiling. "Yes, Liam, I say yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger as the boys cheered and the lights sparkled all around them. A few months later, in their snowy backyard, Maya and Liam renewed their vows in a quiet ceremony. Just close family and a few friends. Maya wore a simple white dress, her eyes glowing with faith. Liam, in a gray suit, held her hand with reverent joy. Evan, Elias, and Ezra, tiny groomsmen in miniature tuxedos, ran around them, each carrying a paper star from the proposal tree. "We're the superhero squad," Evan declared. "Is the cake going to have frosting?" Elias asked eagerly. Ezra, quiet but glowing, hugged Liam's leg and whispered, "Daddy!" Liam's mother, Eleanor, sat in the front row. Tears shining, Maya's mother, visiting from Savannah, held her daughter's hand and whispered, "You deserve this happiness." When they exchanged vows, Maya said, "I once thought we had lost each other, but our children brought you back." Liam replied, "I promise to spend the rest of my life protecting this family." That night inside the cabin, Liam and Maya rocked gently on the porch swing, watching the boys play with a puppy. Liam's surprise gift. The home was filled with laughter, the scent of cookies, and a quiet, enduring warmth. Maya leaned against him and whispered, "Turns out, we were never truly apart." Liam kissed her forehead, his arm around her, eyes on the framed wedding photo hanging on the wall. "No, we weren't," he said with a smile. "And from now on, we'll be together, always." Evan rushed over, tugging their hands. "Come build another snowman, Daddy, Mommy." Elias and Ezra giggled, following behind. Beneath a starlit sky, with snowflakes falling around them, Liam and Maya joined their sons, stepping into a future where love, rediscovered through 3 little boys, would never be lost again.